Today, what we're going to do in the Disneyland Forward series is I'm going to break down the future of the Disneyland Hotel. I've seen a lot of people sort of wondering about how the new theme park expansions will go along with the existing hotels. I've been telling you for a while now that there will be proprietary, like private entrances from the hotels into the new theme parks. None of this is going to happen tomorrow, but long-term planning, I do believe that the Disneyland Hotel will offer its guests an exclusive entryway into the new theme park. But let's break down a couple of things today. Where do I think that entry and exit point that will be exclusive to Disneyland Hotel guests to get into the new theme park? And also, what will happen to all of the parking for the Disneyland Hotel? There's a lot of moving parts over here in the northern west corner of the Disneyland Resort. Today, let's take a walk around the Disneyland Hotel, break down all the different moving pieces and all the things that we need to be keeping an eye on as Disneyland Forward officially starts today. It will take a long time to get to where it's going, but it is an exciting time, and I love doing these little walkarounds, showing you all the little details, all the different ways that Disneyland could indeed grow in the future. Brickey here with another Disneyland Forward series video. Let's get started. I'm so glad you showed up. But let's break down how the entryway would work once Disneyland Forward fully takes off. There are two options to get people in and out of the hotel, and one of them looks pretty calculated. And this is one of those things that when we look at it from the satellite, you could see, oh, somebody did plan ahead for this expansion a long time ago. So far, the most difficult part of convincing the city that Disneyland Forward was a good idea was acquiring Magic Way. Now, it hasn't officially already happened, but it's been approved to happen and it's in the plans. The idea would be is that Magic Way would become a part of the Disneyland Resort and no longer a public street. However, it is my understanding when they do purchase Magic Way that the plan isn't to shut down the entire street, because Magic Way is essentially divided up into three major sections. And I believe this first section coming off of Walnut is safe. I believe they're going to want to keep this here as the main way for folks to be able to get into the Disneyland Hotel. And also, there would really be no reason to shut off this part of the street unless everything over here becomes theme park. And we look at this from the satellite, you can see that this parking lot is isolated going straight up to the Disneyland Hotel parking garage. If they do keep this as part of the Disneyland Hotel, then therefore they're going to want to keep this small section of Magic Way from Walnut Street over to this first stop sign. They will want to keep that flowing with traffic so that people can get into the straightaway that will take them to the Disneyland Hotel. And then everything back here on Magic Way, starting from this intersection over, would be backstage. This would probably be a service road for theme park development that would be happening to the south. Therefore, there would be no reason for pedestrian traffic to ever go this way, because this would be backstage theme park property. So any traffic that comes in would stop here and immediately have to go south. So everything over here would be theme park, and then everything over here, as I understand it, would stay parking, therefore keeping that one little bit of Magic Way open. I also think that Disney would like to sort of preserve the grand entryway to the Disneyland Hotel. A big part about staying here is the drive-up experience. So I kind of just see all of this staying part of the hotel, but being right on the edge of theme park. But keeping Magic Way doesn't have to be the only option, because if we look at all of this from above in the satellite, it does look like somebody planned ahead. And this wall right here could be knocked out and take people straight over to Cerritos. Let's hop over there where I can show you not only the origin of Disneyland negotiating with the city of Anaheim, or vice versa, but also how somebody cleverly left an expansion pad over there, allowing the Disneyland Hotel to be capped off exactly where I'm standing and everything behind me potentially becoming theme park. Now, I don't think that will happen, but I love to show you everything that I do believe is possible. Now, let's say that for argument's sake, they do close off all of Magic Way, just cap it right off at Walnut. There would be the availability to take Cerritos and connect it right into the Disneyland Hotel. Because when we look above from satellite, you can see that somebody thought ahead and said, maybe at some point we might need to make this happen, because the street in front of me perfectly flows into the parking lot and around the Disneyland Hotel parking structure. which was perfectly placed to allow this expansion opportunity to happen. So somebody somewhere was planning ahead of maybe some point we might want this to be able to connect back to Cerritos, which in a twist of fate, Cerritos being given up to Disneyland on the other side of me here, this was the compromise that got Disneyland inside of Anaheim. Long story short, they were thinking about building on the other side of Ball Road. That property wasn't available and they almost left Anaheim. But the city of Anaheim didn't want to lose the opportunity to work with Walt Disney, so they gladly capped off Cerritos. If you were to travel down this street and to keep going straight, it would eventually take you on the little road that's on the other side of the Emporium and where the fire department is inside of Disneyland on Main Street, USA. So I don't think that they'll end up knocking this wall out and making this the connection point. I think they're gonna leave Magic Way and need that parking for the hotel, but it is possible. And with the Disneyland Forward series, I always like to show you all the possibilities and then also kind of tell you what I think that the probabilities are from those possibilities. So this could happen. I probably don't think that it would, but who knows? But with the Disneyland Hotel also having a convention center, probably don't want to rely exclusively on that parking garage. So in this scenario, Cerritos Way would come through. The edge of the Disneyland Hotel would be right where I'm standing. Everything to the north would become theme park, and everything to the south would be Disneyland Hotel. I keep wanting to stress, I don't think that this is going to happen, but I do want to show that it's possible. With this being the Disneyland Hotel parking garage, they do have a decent amount of parking, but I don't know if it's enough because, like I've also said, below the parking garage, south to it, is where there's also a convention center. And somebody who comes here a lot, they do host a lot of conventions. So I think that this parking will still be a part of the hotel. This is the current way that people get into the hotel today, but then there's also the sneaky way over here that somebody somewhere planned for a long time ago. I would love to hear in the comments below, which way do you think that will work? I'm voting this way, but the other way would be interesting because it would give Disney a lot more space for future expansion, but I think they're just gonna hold on to this a little bit longer. There are just some design elements that you need to keep in mind for a hotel. Most people that stay at a hotel do have a vehicle and they want to be able to pull that vehicle up to as close as possible as they can to where they're staying. The unload and load of a hotel, especially for families with small members, talking about kids, it's so important to be able to easily unload and load. So there's going to need to be a significant amount of space that's kept in front of the hotel for all the coming and going of the many Disneyland Hotel guests. So the parking lot that is directly in front of the Disneyland Hotel, I think this parking lot is going to serve a lot of purposes, and ultimately I believe that it is a safe part of the future. But let's go down on the ground and walk around it so I can break down to you why I think that this will stay and how it plays into a much larger part of Disneyland Hotel's future with Disneyland Forward. So moving forward, the hotel will still have to have a couple of things that it already has. It will have to have its load in, load out location, but then also an overflow for valet cars. Dropping the cars off here in like short term, but also a place where valets can bring a car around when somebody calls their car up for, say, a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock pickup. I was a parking valet when I was in college, got to drive every car imaginable. Wasn't the worst job I ever had. But they will need to have this lot over here, this overflow parking lot for short-term parking needs. This would be where black cars would go for VIP guests. This space, that short-term parking area, is one of the crucial essentials that a hotel has to have. So I believe that parking lot is just as safe as obviously this area up front where everybody comes and goes. You just have to have that grand entryway to make it easy for families to not feel rushed so they can take a big breath and go, we're finally here. Our vacation's getting ready to begin. Nobody likes to feel rushed at TSA. Nobody likes to feel rushed checking into a hotel. But also add into another level of complications, the Disneyland Hotel has a convention center that is adjacent to it. This brings in a lot of guests that are staying in the hotel, but also a lot of short-term guests that are just visiting for the convention, making the two parking lots out front even more important for the massive load ins and load outs when an event is getting ready to begin and an event is getting ready to end, where you will have several guests all trying to come and go at the same time. With hotel guests that are checking in, sure, it gets backed up at times, but largely everybody's kind of on their own flight schedule, their own travel schedule, so it's a constant drip all day, obviously with peak times. But the convention center adds in the big influx of a lot of guests in a condensed area in a condensed amount of time. So for anyone who's imagining being able to walk right out of the hotel and go into a theme park, that is very, very unrealistic. I do believe there is a path to get us over to the new theme park, but it won't be just out the front door. There is still a lot of logistics that need to happen, even with a theme park hotel. And those logistics are the through line that we can't avoid. Like, those are the baseline for everything this hotel needs to do. All of the theme park is a perk on top of that, but you have to let people have a quick way in and out. I've maybe over-explained this, but I like to give everybody every little bit to think about on why things work the way that they do. It's part of me being a designer that I have to fixate on every little detail and how each small piece plays its own little bit in the choir of life. However, with Disneyland Forward on the horizon, one of the biggest things that's going to change with the Disneyland Hotel is I believe that eventually, and this could be a decade away, it will have direct private access into theme park. One of the things we're going to look at today is where I believe that path or paths could lie to where if you stay at the Disneyland Hotel, you have your own way in and out of the new theme park expansion. We've seen them do this with the Fantasy Springs that just opened up over at Disney Sea. But if you think about it, this would really allow them to charge even more for the Disneyland Hotel, which is already in the luxury price point. But imagine not only having your own proprietary entrance into the theme park, but this would give them the availability to make this land like early morning access or late night access like they do out at Walt Disney World, where luxury level hotel guests get an extra 3 or 4 hours over regular ticketed guests. And that comes in very handy at Walt Disney World. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays together. But I do believe there are a couple of spaces that are earmarked to get guests from the hotel into the new theme park, exclusively a perk for staying at the hotel. Now, one of the fun things about Disneyland Forward is dreaming of when the park changes, what all will change with it. And there are so many little pieces that exist today that will be absolutely irrelevant once theme parks take over some of the parking garages. And one of those things that would be irrelevant is this little street that I'm standing on right now. There will be no reason for this street to exist. And if you don't know where I'm at, over here is the former ESPN zone. Behind me is downtown Disney. And straight ahead is where the future lies. So keep in mind that this street right now exists to get people from the north and the south of the resort. However, if Disneyland Forward brings theme park over here, this will all be backstage. Over on the other side, where the Pixar Place Hotel is, that will be backstage as well. So this quiet little path that I'm standing on, it will become completely irrelevant for the purpose that it serves today. Meaning that this path from the Sorcerer's Hat to the future will be the proprietary entrance where hotel guests can have their own exclusive way into the new theme park. Just like what we see at Fantasy Springs over in Tokyo, this is the area that I imagine will be that crossway for hotel guests, because once theme parks exist here, there's no reason for anything else to be here. Walking to and from the park will be a thing of the past. You cannot walk through backstage, you cannot walk through the theme park. The parking garages will have one option: the tram in and the tram out. Walking will be irrelevant, therefore making this path part of the hotels. And this pathway has always been such a breath of fresh air from all the chaos over at the edge of downtown Disney, or all the folks coming and going at the Disneyland Hotel. So losing it will be not my favorite. But then again, its sole purpose will completely change once it's a theme park and we can no longer walk into the park from the northwest corner. Mickey and Friends Pixar Pal parking garage. So I believe right here, this is that spillover parking lot that I was going on and on about. I believe right in here, this is the edge of where new development will begin. This Uber drop-off pickup spot, also where they have school buses come in for schools and church groups and different organizations. This will no longer be here because the entry point to here will no longer exist, as this will, in my mind, probably become a backstage service road to get around the outer edge of the theme park. And then these over here will be where the actual development happens. And don't forget, at one point there was a hotel plan to go right in this area. So who knows, maybe with Disneyland Forward being approved, maybe that plan comes back online. But definitely a couple of locations that we'll be keeping an eye on is the Rainforest Cafe and the ESPN zone. Rainforest Cafe, they're only using about 20% of it for the Star Wars trading post out front, and the ESPN Fun Zone, that is where they do all the backstage training and performance training for all the different dancers and performers that we see inside the park. So they are using that, but they're using it for something that could easily be moved off stage. That doesn't need to sit there. That could be in Fullerton. But as I cross the street, I do feel like I am standing in the future expansion of Disneyland, and you'll be able to get there straight from the hotel on the walkway we just went down. So an easy way to put it is this sidewalk, theme park, this berm, hotel. And yes, there is this nice little cozy path that goes from the parking lot into where the expansion is going to be. But I kind of think they're going to want to do something grandiose. And I think that that walkway over there would go more into the overall pinch point. I think they will still need a parking lot walkway to allow people safe passage over to their cars, you know, a place for valets to walk through. But it just feels so tight. And it would also mean that all the families that are coming over here would have to cross over the main walkway in front of the Disneyland Hotel. Whereas if they just walk all the way down the sidewalk like I did, get on that road by where the Sorcerer Hat is, you'd be able to get into the new theme park without ever having to cross a busy road where people are checking in and checking out and have 1,000 things on their mind and probably aren't looking at a crosswalk with families and guests of all sizes go through. So yes, this could be a possibility, but I think once that road no longer serves a purpose, its new purpose will be exclusive access to the new theme parks. And with it being so wide, it would give them the availability to theme it and potentially also make sort of a hotel pass where Grand California and Pixar Place guests all could use this proprietary path. Sort of if you have the hotel key, it would open up all those different paths. They do that with the luxury hotels out at Walt Disney World, where essentially they all get a lot of the same amenities. So I see that as being possible, but so fun to try to figure out where it's all going and to keep remaking some of these videos now that we have more context on some of the moving pieces and moving parts on what to anticipate. And I would also predict that sooner than later, this entry security point will be a thing of the past and everyone will get funneled around into the new entryway that they created. And it could be, very different than I'm laying it out. The ESPN zone could go and that could be the grand entryway. We could walk up here and find the grand entryway, but I just wanted to break down to you that this road over here would be completely irrelevant once the new theme park shows up. And this is, decade down the road, easy. But as I've explained to you, if all of this is the entryway and exit way out of the Disneyland Hotel and all of its parking is contained over there, there is no reason to go up and down this street unless you're a hotel guest that spent a little bit extra and you want to get that extra hour in that you paid for. I was workshopping this out with a friend earlier today. We were talking about, what about downtown Disney into the hotel? Will that be exclusively for hotel guests only? And I think during the daytime, pretty much anybody will be able to walk into the hotel that has a dining reservation or wants to go to the coffee shop. But I think eventually, after hours, or for the most time, this will become an exclusive path because keep in mind, walking to the parking garage will no longer be possible. So essentially, think of it this way. Disneyland Hotel will be end of the line. Once you get to the hotel, there will be nowhere further you can go. But if you keep in mind that eventually the only reason to come through here will be the hotel. It'll all be capped off. I've been promising everybody, hey, there will be a proprietary entrance into the new theme park. and I wanted to do a deep dive, look at the satellites and think about, what we know about the Disneyland Hotel and how it could happen. And when I started thinking about the future of this plot of land, it became pretty evident to me that this will no longer be what it is today when it's not a walkthrough. Friends, I hope you're enjoying the Disneyland Forward series. I hope you enjoyed this look at the Disneyland Hotel's future. If you want to know anything about Disneyland Forward, subscribe to this playlist right here, where I will be doing everything I can to show you every moving piece of the resort, studying Disneyland's past so that we can better predict its future. And its future is in this playlist.